Hey everyone, today I want to bring you along with me to go on a journey to understand yourself and go deeper than just dieting. There are a lot of people out there who are wondering, why do I do what I do? Why is it that sometimes I start off so motivated with my health? I get this initial spark, I make all these changes, but then I'm white knuckling it and I'm gritting and I'm trying and then I give in and then I feel this judgment and then I start over again. If you're having this experience, that's a little whisper, a little sign that tells you there's more to discover. There's so much more beneath the surface of just health information. We are so much more than just nutrition facts. And while I love health and I love science and I love nutrition, that alone kept me really stuck. I didn't understand myself. I didn't understand why I was self-sabotaging, why, even though I knew so much about health and nutrition, it felt like I had to think about food all day and grit and bear and try to change. And it was with force and effort. And I really deeply believed in my heart, it doesn't have to be this way. But if you want to understand yourself, it takes some courage to start diving deeper into understanding yourself, peeling back the layers. But a lot of people don't know, where do I even begin with that? How do I even start to get to know myself and go deeper than just tracking my food? How can I start that journey? And so what I want to do here with you is to give you a bird's eye view. When you're struggling and you're in it, you're kind of like in the weeds and you're like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on with me. My goal here is to help guide you and pull you up above the weeds and give you this bird's eye view so you can be like, oh yeah, okay, I see what's happening here. This makes a lot of sense, and move you into a closer relationship with yourself. It's become everything that I believe in, because I was definitely the one who, I had all the degrees in health and nutrition. I'm a classically trained registered dietitian. I knew so much about health, but it felt very hard. I had to think about food all day long. I was tracking my food. I was gritting. I was afraid to go out to social events because I might sabotage what I was doing. And my life became more intense, more rigid. But the more intense it got, the more I felt like I was getting further and further and further away from what actually felt like freedom. And I wondered, is that what health is? That the harder I try, the more intense and restrictive it has to get? That's not what I'm going for. And outside of that, if we step outside of the conventional way of doing things, we can experience inner freedom. But it's not about more restriction outside of us. It's not even really about what's happening outside of us with our food. It's actually about the relationship that we have with ourselves. What is happening in our thoughts, in our body, in our nervous system, with our cravings. Those are the deep things that drive what we do. But the health industry probably doesn't even really know how to address this. And I'd have to say, with all of my academic training and my university training, while I learned a lot about vitamins and minerals and health facts, no one taught me how to trust myself so that I could choose to be in my power, to eat healthy when I wanted to eat healthy. And then if I wanted to indulge, I could do that and feel fully at peace and move on and really be in my healthiest, thriving self. I didn't know that that inner freedom was possible without obsessing about food, tracking, stressing, willpowering. I didn't know it was possible because I didn't understand this relationship with myself. And it sent me on a long self-discovery experience. It was probably 5 very intense years of reading and studying and coaches and mentors to try to understand this relationship with myself instead of obsessing about food. And I finally got to that place. And so my goal here with you is to share as much as I can to get you to think differently, step outside of the conventional model, come into a closer relationship with yourself, and go deeper than just dieting and health programs. Again, I love science, I love nutrition. And if you're feeling stuck and your heart is like, I think that there's more for me. This doesn't have to be a battle. I just don't know how. Just say yes to the adventure and dive a little bit deeper. You don't have to believe everything that I say. You don't have to completely use it as your new way of being. But if you could just suspend your disbelief for a minute that anything else is possible, I want to show you a new path in a new way. I'm going to challenge your ways of thinking. So this could be triggering. It could be, no way, I don't believe that, or this can't happen, or that feels backwards to me. Because almost everything I teach is opposite of the health industry and what I was taught in my academic training. So it's going to be unconventional. It might ruffle your feathers, it might push your edges, but I want you to stay with me here and just see if you can challenge your own thinking in order to get new results. If you want to get new results, it's time to do things differently. So this is going to be a 6-part training to get you to think differently about all the areas that I addressed that I think are the most important to address to have a harmonious relationship with ourselves. And I really do believe that when we're in harmony with ourselves and our bodies, that's where true health comes from. Not obsession and force and restriction, but coming into a place of harmony within our own bodies. And then we love ourselves to health. So the core components that I focus on are, number one, I like laying a strong foundation with people. And that's what we're going to do in this episode here today, where we're going to start. Laying the foundation is about switching your mindset over to a new way of doing things. It's hard to get new results if you're thinking in an old, outdated dieting model. So laying the foundation is like building the walls of a house. We need a strong foundation to build off of to keep growing and going deeper and deeper. But if you're already coming with a mindset that is blocking this new pathway, that's nope, this is the way it has to be done, you're already putting a dam in front of new possibility. So we want to open up that possibility by shifting your mindset, and that is the beginning of the path. So you need to be thinking differently in order to allow a new approach to even happen. So we're going to start there. And I have found this work to change my life so much. It can get a little uncomfortable. It can be unconventional, but this is truly the thing that changed my life. That for many, many years, I was constantly fighting my food, my cravings, obsessing, thinking. And it's really been the path that has allowed me to find freedom. It's what it feels like inside of me, is to be at peace, to trust myself with food, and I don't have to try hard to be healthy. It just feels very natural. And I have found this to be the same for my students and my clients when they just follow this process. One of my students, I interviewed her many times on the podcast. She's shared her story many times. Her name is Kathleen. If you go back and you can see many times that I interviewed her, because she is such a walking testament to learning this deeper inner self-reflection. I remember her sharing that she had struggled with everything, and she had been trying diets since she was very young. She had tried Weight Watchers. She tried all these different programs, and nothing ever really worked for her. It was this constant battle, up and down, up and down, up and down. And I said, I really just want you to try something different with me. And she said, Gina, I gotta say, this is gonna be my last try. I don't know if I can handle another failure again. Like, I've had a lifetime of struggle and failing. I don't know if I can face another one. And I was like, if you're up for this, just hang in here with me. We're gonna do something totally different. And she was willing to have the courage, and she put in the time. And I remember her texting me, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I lost 15 pounds and it felt very easy and it felt natural to my body. Like, I'm listening to my body. And I was like, awesome, that's cool. Keep going. And then she lost 40 pounds and she texted me. She said, I'm just loving my body to health. I'm listening to it. I'm tuning in. I'm like, awesome, keep going. She kept going, and now she's lost over 80 pounds with this process of listening to her body. It feels gentle. It feels easy. It doesn't mean that it hasn't come with discomfort and challenges, but she's becoming in tune with her body, that it feels harmonious, and she's no longer in this 1 step forward, 2 step back battle. You can go ahead and listen to, if you want to hear her story. I've interviewed her many times, and some of my other students too, I've interviewed on the podcast, who have taken this new approach. So it can be unconventional, but it's a beautiful process. I think it's not for everyone, because it does bring up a lot of self-reflection. And some people are just not ready to have their own self-reflection, and that's totally okay. If you're in a place of where you're like, I am just not ready to look at my stuff, it just might not be something that is the right time, and that's okay. But if you're like, I'm curious, what do I not know? What have I not been able to see yet? I want to go deeper. And you can come take this journey with me and just be open to what realizations you might have, what ahas you might have. And my goal is to take the many years of me figuring it out and condensing it into maybe a much shorter, fast-tracked process for you. There isn't a timeline and there's no rush to get anywhere. But if I can spare you the random trying to figure it out, that's really what my goal here is for you. I've completely shifted my career path from nutrition coaching. I had a private practice doing traditional nutrition coaching, and I completely shifted to this because I believe in it so deeply with my heart and soul. This is the foundation of what mastering mindfulness is built on. So in this series, I'm going to share with you the frameworks, the structure that I take our students through in mastering mindfulness to help them think differently and have this deeper relationship with themselves that they get to have for the rest of their life. So today we're going to start with laying the foundation. So like I said, laying the foundation is all about building the walls of the house. We're going to start shifting the way that you're thinking about the path and your approach to health with food. So there's a very specific path that I see people go on, and I consider this the Ascension path to mastering mindfulness. When you reach this place of mastering mindfulness, it's a mastery level. It is like you're so in tune with your body, you don't have to force or willpower yourself to be healthy. You're just able to tune in and know what your body needs, and you can trust yourself to be able to eat healthy when you want. If you want to indulge, you can. It feels easy and it feels harmonious. A lot of people try to go from battling their food to mastering mindfulness in coming into harmony. But there's actually like 6 steps in between there. And it's near impossible to skip all the steps and just go to here. So when people say, I can't do it, I can't listen to my body, I'm not cut out for it, it's because they skipped all the steps in between and there's a disconnection. They don't really know how to get here. So I'm going to break down all of the steps for you. Pretty much all of my students have followed this same path, and I followed this same path myself. So I think it's very easy when you can see, okay, what are the stages I need to move through? It can help you identify, where am I at? What do I need to do to be able to get to the next level in this path, in this process? One thing that you might notice that makes this very different from dieting is that dieting is like, let's just change all your habits. Let's get you from A to B overnight or within 10 days or 20 days or 30 days. Let's just go boom to boom without ever actually exploring the internal shift that needs to happen with your evolution and with your growth. Changing your behaviors without changing your inner experience, there's probably going to be some resistance and it doesn't stick. So we want to shift internally and see what needs to happen in order to take on these new habits. So the first stage in the Ascension path to mastering mindfulness is the unaware autopilot. Unaware is like, I don't really have awareness of my behaviors and I'm running on autopilot. So I'm just grabbing foods impulsively. I'm not really thinking about it. I'm not even really thinking about the consequences or health or anything like that. An unaware autopilot is like when you're just eating off of routine or impulse. And someone in this stage typically is in denial about the pain of their health and what they're going through, and they're just not quite ready to look at it yet. And they're like, nope, don't even want to look at it. I don't even want to accept it. And so in this stage, you might have thoughts like, I'm fine, everything's fine. But the truth is, they're probably internally suffering and just not ready to look at it. If you're here at this video, you're probably not at unaware autopilot unless you accidentally stumbled on this video, because it takes a certain level of awareness and honest vulnerability with yourself that I don't like some of maybe my relationship with food or my struggles, my challenges. So unaware autopilot is like ground zero, you're in denial, you're not quite ready to accept. If you want to move into starting to work with your patterns and understand yourself, the next step is to move up into confusion. And we move into the confusion stage by being willing to have some more awareness around behaviors. And so this is kind of like a coming to truth moment of like, yeah, I'm unhappy with my eating habits, but I don't know why I struggle with my food. And there's this very like, I don't understand myself. Why am I bad at this? Why do I do what I do? It can come with a lot of shame and guilt if you are in this stage of confusion, because the health industry tells us just be motivated, but it doesn't tell us the understanding of why and what's going on. So when you're in the confusion stage, there could be a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, and also because you're maybe having trouble sitting with your body and yourself and you're not understanding yourself, it also might be difficult to sit in meditation or to sit still, to take quiet space for yourself. And maybe your life is overly busy, chaotic. I'm too busy for anything. I'm too busy for self-care. And that is what is creating this confusion of I don't understand myself. So in this stage, many people consider maybe I should get help. Maybe I should get a mentor. Maybe I should get a coach. Maybe I should do a program. And this is probably essential in order to move up into the next stage. So, in the confusion stage, I don't know why I do what I do. I'm just bad at this. A lot of people stay stuck in the confusion stage. But those who are ready to keep going and learning about themselves will move to stage 3, the motivated stage. Maybe you hired somebody or you started a thing and you might have thoughts like, I am doing it this time. There's no going back. And at this motivational stage, you get this hit, this inspirational spark. And it's like, I'm doing it. And you begin making changes, but you haven't quite discovered yet the roots of why you're doing what you're doing. So it comes with all sorts of self-sabotage, and you go through the roller coaster, the motivational highs and lows. You get the spark and then you crash. You get the spark and then you crash. And it can be exciting, it can be disheartening, and you might go through the stages of like an all or nothing, right? We've all probably hit that stage of where it's like, I'm doing the plan perfectly or I'm failing miserably. I'm doing it and I'm failing. And that's what most of my students say is like, when I came to you, I was going through those all or nothing sprints. I would go through a period of where I do really well and then I would totally lose it and let go. And in order to get through this stage of just relying on that motivational spark, what I have everyone do is spend really good time getting very clear on their vision of what they really truly desire. And when you have just a motivational spark, it's usually sparked out of fear or judgment or possibility, but we want a very clear vision. When people are in the motivational stage, a lot of the time, they know exactly what they don't want. I don't want to overeat. I don't want to give into foods. I don't want to be lazy. I don't. Most people can spell exactly what they don't want. When I ask them, tell me about what you do want, they're like, I don't know. No one's ever really asked me that before. I mean, and sometimes they might kind of give a vague answer, but it's kind of like the kid who's like riding the bike and you're like, don't look at the tree, don't look at the tree, don't look at the tree. And they go straight into the tree. And so when you focus on what you don't want, you keep landing there. But your vision can pull you into expansion. And as you move through the stages that get hard ahead and uncomfortable, you know what you're going for. And the most important part to connect to that vision is a really deep why. Why do you really want this? Because the next couple stages do get challenging and uncomfortable. And it's only those who have a really deep why who make it through to the other side. It's a clear difference that I have seen in my students those who don't really take the time to write out a clear vision and a clear why are kind of wandery and they kind of like give up when they get uncomfortable. But the ones who get very clear on what they desire and why it's so important to them, it hits them so deep in their heart that it moves them and brings them to tears. They get uncomfortable and they're like, my why is bigger than all of my fears and all of my discomforts. And they keep going and they keep going until they get to the other side. And for me, when I was early on in my journey, I was like, well, I got a little taste of trusting myself one day. I was like, you know what? I'm going to honor my body. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's my why right there. I want to experience that for the rest of my life. And I held on to that deep in my heart. And when I would wake up in the morning and I would connect to what I really wanted, and I would think, there's nothing better than trusting myself. Lean in today. Keep going. Keep going. And that kept me going through the challenges. So when there's not a clear vision and not a deep why, motivation fizzles out like a sparkler. When there's a really clear vision and a really deep why, there's like this deep burning fire that allows someone to go through the process that they need to make it through to self-trust. And this is very important to make it to the next level, because the next level is stage 4, which is the most challenging. Stage 4 is the time where we have self-sabotage and resistance. And this is where reality sets in. Wait a second. This is challenging to change my habits. It's bringing up my cravings, my attachments to food, why I don't want to change. I didn't see this coming when I was motivated. This is really hard and uncomfortable. Emotions come up. And the mind's job is to try to keep us the same and safe. So the mind will start to convince you to try to go back. And also, the diet industry, also the health industry, puts this expectation on us that we should feel motivated as soon as we start our program forever. Come on, rah, 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 rah. You can do it. Stay motivated. The reality is that we're going to hit reality and it's going to feel disheartening when it gets hard. And no one prepares us for that we're going to go through these times of where we're like, oh my gosh, I want to give up. This is uncomfortable. I'm not good at this yet. I'm bad at it. I'm attached to this food. It's hard to choose myself. It's hard to love myself right now. And so resistance will come in. It's a normal part of the process. Everyone goes through it. Everyone bumps up against resistance. And so in this stage, you might have thoughts like, I don't have time for this. This won't work for me. I'm just bad at this. You always do this. I knew that you would fall for this craving again. You always. And when they hit this point, when they don't anticipate the resistance to come up, then what happens is they often drop down back to stage 2, to confusion. I give up. This is when it feels not, when the confusion feels not right, when it feels wrong, or I'm sorry, when the self-sabotage or the resistance feels wrong, because we have this expectation from the diet industry that we should be motivated forever. Then it's like, oh my gosh, I'm doing so bad. This is not good. I'm doing terrible. And then they are at a crossroads of like, which direction do you want to go? Do you want to go back and give up and go to stage 2, which is confusion? Why do I do this? Shame, judgment. I'll wait till I get motivated again. I get motivated again. Resistance comes up again. Many people follow the cycle of bouncing in between 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, and they don't break past 4. The ones who break past 4 are the ones who see this is going to come with resistance. I hear my thoughts. I hear my fears. I hear that this is challenging because this is bringing up my patterns that I haven't maybe ever looked at in my entire life. It's bringing up my connection to food, how it makes me feel, why I haven't been able to let go and release some of the foods in my life. And it's only with that honest vulnerability that we can move to the next level to allow those patterns to shift and transform. We don't transform patterns by running away from them or pretending that they're not there. That's how they end up holding their power over us. But by meeting them and exploring them is how we begin to develop self-trust with ourselves. And so at the resistance and self-sabotage stage, you will hear thoughts in your head. And I've had many of my students and clients say, I'm at the resistance point. And those who say just I'm at resistance and they continue to leave and resist and go on back to confusion, stay stuck in that cycle. Those who lean in and say, hey, I'm in resistance, I'd love your support. And they lean into their mentor, they lean into their coach and say, this is really hard for me right now. That's how they can move through resistance and ascend to the next stage, which is the curious stage. I love the curious stage, which is stage 5. This all of a sudden is a big switch from resist to what if I didn't resist? And what if I got curious with all my behaviors and I started wondering, wait a second, I wonder why I do what I do. I wonder why at this time when I come home from work, my mind says you should eat healthy, but instead I go for a snack. I wonder what's going on in that moment. I wonder what I'm really needing. Why am I needing pleasure, comfort, safety? What's really going on? I love this stage because my students become like kids. They become curious and they're like, this is interesting. I wonder why I do what I do. And they move from a place of shame and judgment around their behaviors to curiosity and wonder. And they still might be self-sabotaging. They still might go through patterns that are hard, but they start to look at it with curiosity. Instead of identifying with it as, I'm bad at this, you can't ever do it. Instead of identifying with it, they're starting to say, let's look at this interesting pattern I have. I wonder what's happening here. Now, this is where you really begin to accelerate your self-trust, is with this curiosity. It is like the accelerant to understanding yourself. Denial of a pattern will never accelerate your self-trust. It will keep you trapped. But with curiosity, awareness, compassion, okay, this is interesting. I wonder if I can observe this and go deeper into it. So after the curious stage, if we want to move beyond curiosity, we continue with awareness and love and compassion, curiosity, and then we can move up to the sixth stage, which is flow. And with flow, this is where we've taken on the belief system of curiosity, and we start to see every meal, every time we interact with our food, with our behaviors, with our patterns, We see it all as practice. We're not afraid of any experience. And so then we start really tuning in. Okay, I wonder what's happening. How's my hunger doing? Do I actually need this food? This is where my students start building confidence, where they're like, wait a second, I know how to regulate my body. I can say no to the foods that aren't serving me, and I don't need to use obsession or force or willpower. I'm becoming curious with understanding what my underlying needs are, so that when I do feel like I want to self-sabotage and I want to give in, I can tune in and say, wait a second, is that love that I'm actually really needing? Is it safety that I'm really needing? What's happening inside of my body? And they're using every experience as practice when they're going to sit down and eat a meal, when they're interacting with their food, with every pattern and behavior. They're seeing this as not am I good at it or bad at it. They've shifted their mindset to say, this is a skill that I'm practicing, as if I was learning how to play the piano or learning a new language. If you think you should be inherently good at this, you're forever going to stay not good at it, because nobody is. We weren't really taught this as a skill in school. This is just a skill now that we get to practice and master. So many of my students at this point, they start building confidence, and they will show up with all sorts of insights and awarenesses because they have learned how to self-study and understand why they do what they do. So now we'll start saying, they'll show up and say, I learned, this is why I went for this food choice. This is what my body was telling me. This is what I'm going to do next time. And they're full of this information, and they see that every challenge is full of wisdom. It just, in this process, really changed my life, because the judgment kept me in confusion in stage 2. But when I let go of the judgment and I kept going until I was in this place of flow, now there's forward momentum. I'm understanding myself. I'm healing my relationship with food. I'm seeing every meal is this sacred opportunity to start practicing to listen to my body, slow down, really come into the moment. And thoughts that you might have in this stage are, I embrace every experience. It's all my teacher. There's no good experience. There's no bad experience. Every experience has something to teach me and to show me about what feels like harmony, what feels like a place of where maybe my heart or my body needs healing, what foods resonate with me. Everything is full of rich information, and there's no good experience and there's no bad experience. I welcome them all to teach me. And with this mindset, then you can ascend to the 7th level, which is mastery. That's when we get to the place of mastering mindfulness. And mastery is where you feel in tune with your body, and you can bring your awareness in and notice, yes, this is my natural hunger. This is how much food I need. This is when I'm full. I feel good. I can honor my body and walk away. I can indulge and I don't lose control. Health just feels natural, and I'm doing healthy habits that feel very nourishing to my body. There's no restriction. There's no fear. There's no self-abuse. It's just actually something that feels good to my body. And how you might think in this stage is like, this feels like harmony. It feels natural and easy and effortless. But it takes time to understand your coping mechanisms, your patterns, what your body is communicating to you. It does take time and repetition. You have to get the reps in. This is a skill to practice. So when people go from confusion and then they try to change everything and go to mastery, and they're like, why can't I do it? There's a lot of things that you need to experience and mindset shifts that you need to have in between. And so the mastery level is possible for everyone, but it takes a willingness to keep your head in the game and stay in it through the different cycles and transitions that are required. Not everyone is cut out for that or ready for that. Some people are like, I'd rather just prefer if you gave me a 30-day meal plan and I just want to try my best to hold on as tight as I can. If that's where you are, this process is not for you, and that's okay. I've never found that process worked for me, and I don't know people who it has worked for. If it has worked for you, you can long term, you can let me know. I would love to hear just about your experience. But for me, the most rewarding and fulfilling part has been to move through this process to get to a place of self-trust. And now I don't have to obsess and think about food all day. I never lose control over my food. It feels like harmony with my body. I just really trust my body, but it has taken stages to go through. So we want to move from unaware autopilot, as I have no awareness. Most people are not there if you're here, 2 is confusion. Why do I always do this? I don't understand myself. 3 is I got this hit of motivation. We want to have a deep vision and why. 4 is resistance will come in. I want you to hang in there through the resistance and keep leaning in. 5 is, okay, maybe I could get curious with what's going on. 6 is I see everything as practice. Let's get into a place of flow. And when we keep practicing, we hit 7, which is a stage of mastery. So in order to move through the stage of mastery, there are some really important mindset shifts that do need to happen along the way, because a dieting mentality or the classical health industry mentality opposes this process. So if you have the mindset of that and you're trying to implement this new process, they're not cohesive. So you'll probably sabotage it and it will feel really difficult. So there's a few mindset shifts. The number one mindset shift is that I want you to give yourself a nice lengthy timeline. I like to tell my students, give yourself a year of a self-discovery experience. This might be very different because conventional health is like faster, abs in 5 days or blah, blah, blah. And we know that those are fast and they're sexy and they're gimmicky. But if we really want to lay down some deep roots of a strong relationship that isn't on and off, this is going to take some time. And really, if you have been struggling with your food for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, investing in a year for yourself is not very long. And I say that that's an average time, but really there is no timeline. Think of it as an investment. Like you're pulling back, you're getting messy, you're learning about yourself, you're slowing down, and you're going to launch forward and have this relationship with yourself for the rest of your life. And most people will say, oh, no one has ever given me space. Everyone says, complete the program by this time and deadline and change and transform. And our nervous systems are like, oh my God, like I have to change by then. But when you have the spaciousness, it's like, I can just learn about myself and I can grow and allow me to grow at my own pace, at my own time. I think that can be so helpful. The second mindset shift I want you to have is to allow yourself to be messy and embrace some self-sabotage. This is opposite of dieting culture. Diet culture will tell you to willpower your way through. Don't give in, don't give in, don't give in. But this avoidance of those things that you don't like, it will end up holding its power over you and you don't end up learning the rich lessons. So it doesn't mean that you have to eat junk food all the time. Maybe you have some health goals, but in the moments of where it feels challenging and it feels difficult, instead of running from it, I want you to lean in to that thing that you're really not wanting to look at and explore it with love and compassion and curiosity. When you move towards something, you become free of it. There's wisdom, there's gold in it. And so I want you to really allow yourself to embrace some of the discomfort that comes with that. And so the next philosophy around that is to use curiosity. Curiosity is so, so important. The health industry primes us to use shame and judgment around our behaviors, and it's just keeping us stuck. Shame is the glue that sticks us to our behaviors that we don't want. Curiosity allows everything to really become understood. So what we want to do is start moving into a deeper relationship with ourselves. Today was all about shifting your mindset. This is going to prime you to be able to go far, launch really far, make some really good progress, because you don't have your mindset alone keeping you stuck. I hope that this allowed you to see new possibility. In the upcoming series, I want to teach you all about how to start moving into a deeper, closer relationship with this framework that I teach to my students to understand themselves on deeper levels. And when you do that, it can be the most rewarding, most freeing experience that you ever have. So I'm so grateful to be able to share something that's been very deeply personal to me, really my heart and my soul, and this really deep, challenging, vulnerable journey that I've been on. So if something gave you a new aha and an awareness, I'd love your feedback. I'd love for you to share what resonated with you or give it some love here. So I hope that you enjoyed this. My goal here is to try to share as much as I can to get you to think differently, challenge these conventional ways of doing things, and to experience that deep inner freedom. And that's what we're all really looking for, right? So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next session.